Hello and welcome to this video. In this video, we are going to talk about test cases, how to write test cases and how to execute them. But before we can start writing our test cases, we first have to create a file. For now, that file will store all our test cases, keywords, settings, and variables. So let's go to the root of the project. Right-click it, go to New, and create the file. Ideally, the robot file has to be descriptive and understandable so we know what the file is supposed to do. But for now, since it's just an example, we can just use any name at all. The most important thing is that it has to end in .robot. So initial.robot and enter. And now the file has been created. When it comes to the structure of the test files, there are 4 sections we need to help us run our test cases. The first one is the settings. So this is the syntax: 3 asterisks, and then you type settings, and then there would be a pop-up. So you can just press enter. So the first one is settings. The second one will be variables. The third one will be the test cases. And then the last will be the keywords. There are other ones, but these are the ones I use. So for now, these sections will be in this robot file. In later videos, we are going to split them up into their own files and folders. But for now, we are going to leave them here in the initial.robot file. So for the settings, this is where all the imports happen. So any library you have installed, you have to import them in the settings section. So for instance, we installed the Selenium library, which is going to be used in our test files by our test cases. So we need to import that. If we do not import the Selenium library, we won't have access to the keywords that Selenium library come with. So to import any library at all, you just type the library keyword and you have a suggestion. So enter, and then you hit the tab key 2 or 3 times just to give space, and then the name of the library. Now the only library we have installed so far is the Selenium library. So Selenium, and then it gives you suggestions, then enter. Yeah, so this is how we import a library in the settings section. There are other ways to import other files, like if you have external files you want to import, those are resources, but more on that in later videos. For now, we just need the Selenium library imported, which we have done. So now next up is the variables. For the variables, variable is in programming, variable stores a value. So if you have maybe an age, you can create an age variable and add a value to it. But since we are just starting with the robot framework tutorial, we are going to skip the variables for now. But any global variable that you need to define should come under the variables section. So for now, we can just skip the variables. and move to the test cases. But same for the keywords. The keywords, we won't create our user-defined keywords at the moment. So we are going to skip that as well. More on that in later videos as well. So now for the test cases, this is where you actually create your test cases. The test cases that are going to basically test your web app, for example. So you have to put them in the test case section. And ideally, you need to give your test cases a descriptive name so that later, if you open or when you open your test files, you know what those test cases do. Or if any other person opens the test file, the person knows that this is what this test case is supposed to do. So type in or a test case with the name, let's say test case 1 or test case 2 or test case N. It's not really descriptive because a week or two from now you might not remember what test case N does, for instance. So test cases like let's say add to cart or delete items or log out of the system, something like this. So when you see add to cart, you can deduce from the name of the test case that you are probably shopping, and this test is going to add some items to the shopping cart. So this is an example of how descriptive a test case can be or should be. Yeah, so but for now, we'll just stick to basic stuff. So our first test case can be my first test case. This will do for this example. And then you enter. So that is your first test case. And typically all the test cases have keywords in them, whether inbuilt or from the Selenium library or a user-defined keyword that will later come in this section, in this keyword section. So after creating the keyword and pressing enter, you need to hit the tab key so that the cursor comes a little inner. Else, if it starts at the far left, then it means you are creating another test case. So you need to hit the tab key at least once. Then you can start writing or putting in your keywords. So for now, let us log something to the screen. Log means like we want to display something on the screen. So we just type log. Log is a keyword, a built-in keyword in the robot framework. So the log is not part of the Selenium library. So we can actually remove this and the log will still work. So log itself is a keyword that takes at least one argument. An argument is data we supply to a keyword or a function. So you cannot just write log and call it a day. You need to pass in something, a message. So what will be our message? Hello world. This is my first test case. Hello world. This is my first test case. And just like that, we've written our first test case, but it doesn't really help us. So now we have to execute the test case, my first test case. So how do we execute our test cases? You have to come to the terminal down here, or you can use Alt F4 as it says in the pop-up or the tooltip. So you click the terminal, and then to run your test case, you need to type in the robot command because it's a robot file you are running. So you can just type robot space dot and the forward slash and then the name of the file. So this is actually the path. So you have to type robot and then the path to the file. But we are already in the robot framework directory, and the path we want to the file we want to run is the initial.robot, which is under the robot framework course folder. Yes, so we are already in the root folder. So just go straight and execute the initial.robot file. If this robot file was in another folder, then you have to specify that folder as well. But for now, it is directly in the root of the project. So that you can just hit the tab a couple of times until the file you want to run actually appears. And then when it does appear, you just press enter. And then voila, it says, so this is the name of the file you are running. And then we have my first test case in it. And then it passed. It says 1 physical test, 1 passed, 0 failed. Because we have only one test case in the file. So if we had multiple test cases, it's going to write my first test case, second. So let's try and see. So you can just copy this one and edit it. This is my second test case. So we can just run it again. And then it says initial. So that's the name of the file being run. So 2 tests, 2 passed, 0 failed. So all our tests are passing. So in this video, we've learned how to create our test cases, and we now know the structure, the basic structure of how the test files look like. And in the next video, we are going to talk about the results of the test cases we run. So thank you, and see you in the next video.